part of what one can say will be history for the career that he has led, right from the time he was given the Sword of Honor, awarded the Sword of Honor when he was in the IMA, to his ultimate position as the CDS. He led an exemplary career in patriotic duty and was extremely, extremely well regarded and highly regarded. A lot of the people that I have been speaking with who worked with him in the past or have interacted with him have spoken of him in very high terms, and not just because he's no more in this world, but based on their interactions and their recollections. The fact that for being such a senior military officer, I'm being told that he was somebody who could take a joke on himself, had a sense of humor, had great sense of humility when he dealt with people. And I'm finding that people genuinely are mourning him. And since I think it was the 1950s, when the last time such an accident took place, wherein a senior leadership, military leadership of the country was at risk. Two of the people, they survived and went on to become army chiefs, but that was the last time something like this so untoward happened. And this is, of course, uh, a dark, dark day in the history of this country, post independence history of this country. And one really is at a loss for words. He was, of course, from the state of Uttarakhand. And being from Uttarakhand, I can really speak of how much pride he infused in the young people. It is really about the opportunities, the work opportunities in the state are very limited. So a lot of the young people join the forces, and someone like General Rawat, who has had such an exemplary military career, is a great source of inspiration. In the hills, every person has a couple of members, if not at least one person in the armed forces. And my own family, there are more than three people who are connected with the armed forces. This is really, really a sad, sad day. And Avi says that General Rawat's death has exposed a lot of former military men. Yes, I think all of us who were online today, as we waited for the news to be confirmed, although the news was not very good right from the start, felt that some of the people who jumped forward, and like General Panag was one person who went ahead and sort of announced it, was kind of out of place, because there is a protocol for this. And you just cannot go ahead and announce this. It's usually, you have to make sure that the next of kin know. In General Rawat's case, and this is particularly devastating, he had two daughters, and both these girls have lost their parents on the same day. One cannot even imagine exactly what they're going through right now. It's unimaginable, the horror of what they must be experiencing, to have your parents alive and well. On a personal level, I mean, of course there is this military persona, but on a personal level, to have people, your parents well and active and going about their lives one day, and the next they're just gone. I mean, and if one thing this time has taught us, it's about the fragility of life, and really how we have to make every day count. I was just watching Republic TV, and General GD Bakshi was on TV, and he was remembering General Rawat, and he was saying that he was in a hurry, and there were a lot of changes that he wanted to make happen, and he was in a rush to get that done. And you almost wonder, when people have these kind of unexpected passings, how quickly it just comes upon them and the rest of the people. I mean, people of significance and who are actually making historical changes, that they seem to have this urgency to them. And I think General Rawat was one of those people who had this sense of urgency. Prasoon Joshi uh, from Uttarakhand, the very noted lyricist, has also condoled his death and said that he was the pride of Uttarakhand, and I think he's absolutely right. He was. One really did feel really very proud of the fact that he belonged to the state, and of course, more than that, he was of course much more than that. He was the first CDS of this nation. I mean, this great nation, the largest democracy in the world, with a disciplined armed forces who have, facilitated our freedoms, as well as, ensured that we remain, the transfer of power, like what we see in Pakistan and countries like that. These quasi-military situations have never happened in our nation, and it's because of the discipline of these armed forces. And someone like him, uh, to pass like this after making history is just the beginning. I mean, of this series of CDSs that the nation will see. I think it's just a very tragic beginning of that as well. Of course, international leaders have now started offering condolences. The Prime Minister of Bhutan, the Defense Minister of Israel. All of these condolences are coming in, and you really, Jen, realize just how massive this is, because this is the top military person in the country. He is second to no one when it comes to our armed forces, and it's a huge. You know, I would think it's just very devastating. I'm still trying to find words. I saw one of our regular Sandeep Ghosh comment on Twitter that you know he there's this chatter constantly about the prime minister's plane and his chopper and this and that, and the politicking over it. And then when you see a loss like this, you say that it's so important that the security, the facilities, the machines that transport them, be it the cars or the vehicles or the planes or whatever it may be, are top quality and top notch, because something like this is absolutely devastating. And Abhijit is joining us as well, and I'm going to bring him up on screen. Thanks so much for coming on at such short notice. Can you hear me, Abhijit? Yeah, we can hear you now. Okay, he's gone. You know, yes, I mean, Vision Bharat, you're right. There are many choppers that have, but we shouldn't jump to conclusion. Smarter logic is saying conspiracy, but really not. Let's not jump to any conclusions right now. The Air Force is investigating it, from what I caught on the news. The air chief has gone directly and is going to probably look at this with his own team and professional team to see what exactly happened. Here's Abhijit. And I think the chief minister of Uttarakhand, of course, has I'm sorry, left for his village. But yes, the chief minister of Uttarakhand, actually, before the formal announcement came from the Indian Air Force, there was news that he was already heading to the general's village. His village is in the Pauri district of Uttarakhand, Pauri Garhwal. This is in the hills, the upper reaches, and that was a sign, at least that I read, which was before the formal announcement of his passing, that the news was going to be grim. Like I said, in the mountains in particular, because there's, a huge patriotic fervor that runs through the people. The army is really the top choice when it comes to career and, the service of the nation. So I think these villages also people are related to each other, very closely related to each other. For example, you don't marry in your own village because you have some family branch that is connected. So I would imagine that, knowing that area, that the village also would be completely immersed in today. General Bipin Rawat, of course, came from a military family. His father was, I think he rose to the rank of lieutenant general, and was a part of a military family. He grew up witnessing this, and then went on to join the forces. I think he joined in 1978, if I'm not mistaken. Abhijit, can you hear me?
Yep, yep.
Oh,
Can you
great.
hear
You're
me?
here. Yes, perfect. In 1978, I was just going through General Rawat's career, and this really the shocking news today. And he joined the forces in 1978. I was explaining to our viewers that his passing is really a huge deal, even on an international level, because this is the top military person in the country.
Yeah. Uh, Look, it's a huge deal in terms of morale. Um, Thankfully, in operational terms, except in terms of succession, it's not going to be such a big blow. But in terms of morale, it is absolutely massive. So, and the visuals of it. First of all,
Mm,
those visuals should have never been let out. I don't know
yeah.
what they were thinking, letting all those things out. But anyway, what's done is done. There's no use crying over spilt milk. But look, in operational terms, it's not going to have any effect.
Mm,
So we need to be very, very clear about that.
mm,
But also, let's not forget the remaining 13 people on that chopper who also died,
yeah.
who will, that and a few of them were officers, so that's a big hit.
Mm,
And some were personal security, highly trained personal security, which was also it's going to be a big hit.
yeah. Yeah. I was speaking to one of my friends who was with the army earlier, and he was mentioning how his brother-in-law was waiting to receive him at the academy where he was flying in Wellington Academy. Actually, I was telling them earlier that I have family members who are part of the armed forces, and my Tauji served in that same academy. Of course, this was decades ago, but I can't imagine. I mean, those people must have been waiting for him to come in to land. This is, and I think somebody else was mentioning that this is like a chopper. The helipad is, and I think he was about 6 to 8 minutes away from landing, and it was at this VVIP helipad just a couple of days ago. Rajnath Singh, the defense minister, had also used the same helipad. So it was a matter of time. He was expected any time when this happened. What is the process usually, Abhijit, when these kind of accidents have to be investigated? Because that would be the protocol, I assume. Although there's nothing to suggest, I should repeat, that any foul play is suspected.
Correct. There's no foul play suspected. There have been some Pakistani handles saying, oh, we brought it down with a man pad and crap like that, but it's typical Pakistani crap, not
Mm,
worth taking seriously. This one, the process is, see, first of all, you're meant to sanitize the area. The problem is all
mm,
of that has gone out because you look at the number of villagers and people, and to their credit, they came at least. Because in India, what
mm,
happens is the moment an accident happens on the road, everybody slows down to watch the tamasha and they all run away. Here, the
mm,
villagers came and they proactively started bringing buckets, even though the closest road was 50 kilometers
yeah.
away. They brought buckets and they started trying to souse the fire and trying to rescue people, which at
Mm,
considerable personal risk, they tried. So
mm,
let's remember that the accident scene is contaminated. Uh, First of all, there should have been a protocol where the a person of his caliber flying, there should
mm.
have been one more helicopter flying with him just in case
Yeah.
of things like this. So I don't know why that did not happen because that is for
Mm,
me a major breach. But
mm,
we never think of things like this. Or maybe it was a budgetary thing where such things weren't afforded to anything other than the prime minister or something like that.
mm,
I remember the first time I ever saw an episode of a high dignitary arriving was in Cuddalore when my mother was the collector there, and R. Venkatraman at that time was the defense minister, and he came in one of those Chetak or Cheetah helicopters, I forget what. And even then, there were two helicopters, one just in case something happens and things like that. There was always a second helicopter accompanying him.
mm, mm,
Now, I don't know why that protocol wasn't followed in this case. I don't even know if it is protocol in the first case. But that scene should have been secured. Now, that is one opportunity lost. The second thing will be to go after the voice communications. What were the
Hmm.
communications that were happening between the captain and the co-captain of that helicopter and the control tower that they were reporting to? And the third will be finding the black box of this particular helicopter.
Hmm.
So let's see what happens. But the problem is, at least with civil air crashes, you have a very clear internationally defined protocol.
Hmm.
Here with the
Hmm.
military, we don't really know what's happening out here. So
How much transparency can we expect, Abhijit, in this kind of an investigation? How will they be updating the public, or will it be something that's done within the confines of the establishment, the military establishment?
look, I never expect transparency. For
Mm.
example, the way the last time an Mi-17 came down was during the Balakot incident. Remember the day after, I
Mm.
think after Balakot, where they misread the signals and we shot down one of our own helicopters. We still don't know what happened out there. There's one
Mm.
report saying that the interrogator, which identifies you as a friend or foe, had been turned off by the helicopter. Another saying it was misidentified. So, military. Do you remember the Samba spy case, where a lot of our,
Mm.
it's an old thing, where a lot of our
Mm.
people were caught, they were tortured, bayonets were shoved up an officer's anus, electric shocks were placed to his genitalia, and he was found completely innocent 15, 20 years later.
Mm. Mm.
So,
Mm.
military justice is nasty, it is brutal, it is more often than not full of cover ups. I have no faith in the military justice system. It is something desperately needing reforms for the sake of our own soldiers because they are more interested in scapegoating people. I'm not too sure what to expect from this. I would have rather it wasn't
But
a
do you
military
think?
investigation at all.
But do you think there's a lot of anger right now, or shock, or what do you think is going on running through the military at this point of time?
Well, right now, just demoralization. You lose your
Hmm.
chief of staff, it's not very good. Uh,
Hmm.
but again, look, we don't really know because different people have different emotions and different ways of reacting to things.
Hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about this chopper he was on?
It's a very good chopper. I don't know why people are trashing it on social media. Saying, "Oh, if only he had taken the advanced light helicopter and things like that." Remember, the advanced light helicopter has had many more crashes than the
Hmm.
Mi-17 has during since the Mi-17 has come online. This is the
Hmm.
latest
Hmm.
version inducted in 2018. It's had about 6 accidents, one fatality.
Hmm.
Most of them were hard landings. One was where a parachute from a paratrooper or something like that, or from a equipment drop, went and jammed itself on the rear wheel. So it was a protocol failure. Uh, the ALH has had more mishaps than this helicopter has. The thing is, the ALH is much smaller. See, it can only carry 4, 6 people or something like that. So
Hmm.
when you have fatal accidents with the ALH, a lot fewer lives are lost than when you have a huge helicopter like this that can carry
Hmm.
15, 20 people.
Right. Right. And I mean, of course, his wife was also with him, which is just exceedingly tragic for the daughters. He has two daughters, and I just can't even begin to imagine what they're going through at this point of time. And the other thing I wanted to ask you was, I get your point about having that sort of almost like a pilot chopper, as would be there when he's traveling around, right? To have like a similar arrangement when he's in the air. Uh, what sort of changes do you think are going to come about now after something like this happens? What are
Nothing.
the?
We don't do institutional changes. See, nothing's been changed. Do you remember in when Kargil happened?
Hmm.
Do you remember that two helicopters were shot down
Hmm.
by the Pakistanis? Mostly because we were using helicopters that were completely bereft of self-defense measures and infrared chaff and flare and things like that. We never developed those protocols sufficiently to see to it that all those helicopters had shafts and flares to divert Pakistani shoulder-fired missiles. Then the same thing happens during Balakot. Well, different. It was at worse because it was friendly fire. Because when you equip a helicopter with chaff and flares, you decide that your interrogator, it's called an IFF, interrogator friend or foe. So it's basically an electronic thing which challenges you and says, are you a friend or are you a foe? If you're a friend, give me the password or I'm going to shoot you down, and it paints you as an enemy or blue as a friend. That failed. It was actually turned off because it was so problematic when you have different kinds of weapons from different places. You have an Israeli air defense missile and a Russian, another air defense missile with a Russian plane and this thing. You can't get them to work together. We don't take a system of systems approach. So first, let's see what comes out of this investigation. First of all, I'm not very confident about this investigation. Second, if and when something comes out, you can rest assured that nothing institutional will be actually done to prevent it.
There's also talk of inclement weather, like the weather wasn't quite right for flying. Is that
But remember,
true?
this is, look, inclement weather or not, these are military helicopters. They are meant to be flying in weather like that. This isn't some dikhava show. This isn't a Estee Lauder or a Christian Dior dress that you only wear when the sun is up and things like that. These are meant to be, these are helicopters that fly through Russian blizzards in -40, -50 degrees Celsius in Siberia. Right? It had detection mechanism, it had ground collision avoidance systems and things like that. We still don't know what happened with this. So inclement weather or not should not be a problem for this helicopter. See, had it been a Chetak or Cheetah or one of those older helicopters which did not have all these electronic equipment to do things, then fine. In this case, remember the person who survived is the pilot, Varun Singh, which kind of shows you that it probably wasn't a crash, because if the crash had happened, it would have happened from the front and well, it would have been the rotor because they have a much higher diameter. But clearly, it's more to do with the way in which the landing was executed, some kind of a hard landing gone horribly wrong, or some kind of a loss of power where the helicopter has kind of come down. By the way, helicopters are fundamentally safe. If a helicopter loses power, it operates like in school, we used to make those helicopters with a thin strand and two diggly pokleys outside, and used to drop them from the second floor, and they'd keep rotating and land very, very gently on the ground. Helicopters, technically, whenever I've flown a helicopter, we always do these emergency stops. As part of training flights, you do these emergency stops and unpowered emergency landings. You can do it, you can land on a dime. They're extremely precise things. So again, we don't know what exactly has happened out here. Right. Sometimes what happens is, even when you have electronic equipment, your pilot can be completely disoriented. Again, the disorientation doesn't work out, because if the pilot was disoriented, it would have been a head-on collision. That doesn't seem to be the case out here.
There's a question from Savan. He wants to know, could there have been a higher altitude plane like a PLA version?
Please, this is so insulting to people when you talk like this, boss. Really, stop with the conspiracy theories.
Okay. No conspiracy theories, guys. We're just meeting. I remember Kobe Bryant was the last time that there was, a chopper crash of this magnitude.
Yeah.
Again, it was, they said weather at that time. Again, a devastating
But also
loss
remember that helicopter doesn't have the kind of advanced electronics that military helicopters have to avoid this kind of thing. Because remember, a civilian helicopter is meant to take certain precautions that military helicopters are not meant to take. They're meant to be flying extremely slow just over the trees in heavily mountainous area and things like that. To hide and maximize the element of surprise and things like that. So they have a much, much better system. We still don't know. We shouldn't be speculating as to this. Let the final results come out. We'll see if the results match to what we've seen from the crash videos. Right now, from the crash videos, all we can say is that what we're seeing is it clearly landed from top to bottom, like in a hard landing like this. What happened? Because the rotors should have ensured that they would keep spinning and minimize the impact. So clearly something has happened out there. Remember, if you look at the trees in the front and back, it hasn't skidded to a halt or something like that. So it's not like there was a mountain, it came boom like this. So again, the imagery that we're seeing from the crash indicates some kind of vertical descent.
Okay, I think you froze for a moment there. I want to try and understand, he's historical as well. I mean, he's a figure of history also, because he's the first CDS that the country has ever had. What exactly was the role? How was he selected for this top job? And just if you can shed a little light for us on that.
So look, the top job was they decided because the Navy and Army were so opposed to it. They decided it was going to be done on the basis of seniority. Right. And at that point of time, he was the most senior of the chiefs. So he got bumped up to that particular post. It is even now going to be decided on the basis of seniority, which means Naravane is going to become the
CDS.
Is it Naravane right now? Yeah, a Chief of Defense Staff, and unfortunately, there's army politics of some weird kind going on, where they're looking to supersede someone and put somebody else, and whatever. I mean, I'm not going to get into that. Let's see what happens. Excuse me. But that was the main reason that he was chosen for the job.
And
now, in operational terms, we have, I wouldn't say no clarity. It just seemed that it was a toothless job. We could never see what operational impact it was going to have, other than adding an extra layer of bureaucracy.
I was watching Major General General Bakshi, on Republic, and he was saying that he was trying to spearhead some, sweeping changes, the 14 commandments, bring it down to 4, some realignments, things of that nature. I didn't quite catch his entire statement, what he was talking about. But
I think one thing we can safely say about General Rawat was downsizing was not in his character. So I don't buy that.
You don't buy that. Okay. And the other thing is, you brought up army politics. We saw some rather distasteful commentary very early on by ex-army men about this whole accident and the whole scenario through the day. I mean, tragically, Twitter is, I think, a cesspool of toxicity. But it's something else when karma is trending, because an ex-army man has used that word in a very negative way.
You'll always have one rotten apple. This is one rotten apple. How many rotten apples did you see? There was only this fellow saying something nasty. No, the rest were perfectly fine. I think people went after General Panag. But what did Panag do? Panag just said RIP this thing. And the fact was, we knew within the first half hour. None of us tweeted it out, because the thing was, we were all worried ki bhai aap BB bachchon ko, not BB in this case, but bachchon ko unko pata chal gaya ya nahi chal gaya hai or whatever. So no, he put the news out, but we all knew within the first half hour, 45 minutes that the general was dead. We just refused to say it out publicly. But mind you, I have to say this, the army's behavior in this has been absolutely disgraceful. One of the people who died is a family friend. And the family was desperate trying to find out, and we had to end up calling all our journalist contacts till finally a journalist that you and I know was able to confirm that this person had died. And they found out about their family's death from us and not from the army.
Oh God.
Okay, so let's not talk up the army out here. Their behavior has been disgraceful. I'm just holding back because this is not the time to be talking
I
about
believe
this
that.
right now. But really, somebody needs to lose their job over this.
So what is it? I mean, because we saw the Indian Air Force make the official announcement. So
Because it was
was
their
it a
helicopter.
protocol? Yeah. So was it a protocol thing? Do you think
See,
that's
they
why the
have
army
no
was holding
protocol
it
for
because
these.
the Air Force had
They never game for worst case scenarios. See, ये बुरा है, हम इसके बारे में बात नहीं करेंगे. They don't have protocols in place for this.
Hmm. Okay.
This should have been the moment you knew it was done. You needed to track down. You always need to have emergency contact numbers. For emergency contact numbers, you always need to have a procedure in place. I can tell you the way it's done in certain other countries, which is you always have the emergency contact number. That emergency contact number always has to, they'll always test it once in 6 months or once in a year to see, boss, are you picking up the phone or not? Is the phone operational? What the hell? Are you still married or divorced or whatever, etc., etc., etc. And they will keep that thing contained, and they inform the family immediately, usually in person. So they'll first
Hmm.
find out where you are, then send somebody in person, and then announce it. But here they weren't even containing the news at the source of origin because we all knew that he was dead. We'd all got an official confirmation. Well, I mean, not official, but from
Hmm.
officials in private, we got confirmation that he was dead. Right? So you're allowing the information to leak left, right, and center.
Hmm.
So what is the point? It's they're really disgraceful in the way they've botched up the handling to this situation. And finally, the Air Force came out and announced it. I think because someone had to go out and announce it. It would have probably
Hmm.
been better if the defense minister or prime minister had
I,
announced it.
Defense
But
Minister,
anyway,
yes.
the Air Force, which is still fine. I mean, whoever had to
Hmm.
announce it, announced it. They would have decided this thing. And that's that.
So what holds up these announcements? Of course, there were 13 people who lost their lives. So it would be really DNA identifying everybody just to make sure. That would be one thing that they would carry out. That's what is being reported in the media. And then, of course, reaching out to the next of kin to make sure that they know. So if this accident happened at around noon,
Look, the three gentlemen who got out alive,
hmm,
we very clearly would have known. See, even then, the information had to be contained. How did we know within 45 minutes that he was confirmed dead?
hmm, hmm, hmm,
Right? Because you can tell all the labels and things would have been there. You know who's wearing that. The ID tags, the dog tags, everything would have been there. No, that is the point of them, that they survive for immediate identification. Right? So this DNA nonsense doesn't make sense. This was just completely botched up. It's a disgrace.
hmm,
So they've done what anyway. What's done is now done. This, the sad thing is they'll never set in place a protocol to fix this or replace this either. Look, boss, Savan, I'm not going to answer these conspiracy theories. Okay, you think China did it? Congratulations to you. I'm not going to entertain this. This is really insulting. Please stop this line of questioning now.
hmm,
So yeah,
hmm.
this. Is there room for improvement? There's always room for improvement. The issue is, do they actually learn lessons? I think not.
Tomorrow, the defense minister is going to issue a statement in parliament. I guess that's the done thing. Today, we saw a lot of politicians kind of saying, "Where's the confirmation? Why aren't you telling us something? Why aren't you, kind of uh, beating up that hysteria as well online?" So politicking has already
Look,
entered.
it's not an unfair demand
Hmm,
because everybody already knew what had happened,
hmm,
right? The problem was, why were they taking this long to locate family members? And mind you, family members who wanted to be informed were not being informed.
hmm.
Okay, so it was very, very problematic.
Hmm. Do you think they were overwhelmed just by the fact also that this is the CDS? I mean, this is
Yeah, they were paralyzed. They should never be
I mean, they must
paralyzed.
have been paralyzed by
But
the
see,
fact that
they should
the
not be
most.
paralyzed. The whole point of the army is You have standards and procedures in place. You can't get paralyzed by things like this. What if it happens in the middle of a war? You remember in the 1971 war, the chief minister of Gujarat's plane was shot down by Pakistani fighters. He was flying in a Cessna coming to Delhi, and his plane got shot down by Pakistani fighters. You don't get paralyzed by it. Tomorrow, if the prime minister's plane is shut down in the middle of a war with China, what, you'll get paralyzed completely? You won't know what to do until the news. There's a very, very big gap here. The army's PR arm has not done the job it should be. There are serious heads that need to roll out here. Of course, they won't. That's a different matter.
And then this it's a very sensitive position. It's a very important position. There is going to, of course, be no scope for any kind of handover, because this was a person who was in office, who was functioning. He wasn't anywhere close to giving up that command. So what's going to happen now? This is all unprecedented. Is there will have to be someone who will come in.
So there's a lot of politicking happening on who the next CDS is going to be. Not so much. Already. I mean, even before. One of the reasons it wasn't announced was because of the sheer amount of politicking that was happening, where, the first thing that should have been announced the moment the cabinet knew, and mind you, the cabinet, if we knew 45 minutes after, they would have known within the first 15, 20 minutes.
All right.
This is not the way a nuclear power conducts itself. There has to be an automaticity in who assumes what power, and successors need to be named immediately. Within minutes. Not within days, not within hours, within minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, because you always need to be planning for ye mar gaya to kya hoga, wo mar gaya to kya hoga.
The designated survivor sort of situation.
The designated survivor sort of situation. It needs to be, there has to be an automaticity of command. You can't run a nuclear state like a sad, pathetic joke the way this entire episode has been carried out. Right. Now, okay, he didn't have control of the nuclear arsenal. That's a different matter. But a serious military, you still need to have redundancy. That happens. The nuclear arsenal is controlled from the National Security Advisor's office. But still, you need to have that professionalism and that automated chain of command, where when one link is cut off, the other link knows what to do. Right now, you don't know what to do. Now, the handover, remember, it's an institution because it created a bureaucracy. Whoever comes into the job will get an automated handover from the bureaucracy around the position.
Okay. And so do you think in the CCS that they had today, with the Prime Minister heading that, these things would have been discussed, I imagine?
They would have been discussed. But the issue is they shouldn't have been discussed. It should have been automatic.
And so you think that now it's going to pick up pace. Of course, there will be a state funeral, I imagine. The mortal remains are remaining tomorrow.
It's coming. The mortal remains will be brought back to Delhi tomorrow evening, and that's when the state funeral is going to happen.
Okay, and then
the plane to collect the remains, the VIP plane, we noticed had taken off at around 3:30, 3:40 this afternoon, going south. It was picked up. We picked it up on the flight trackers.
And it'll come back tomorrow. And then, of course, depends when it comes back, when the funeral will be. It'll be a state funeral. That will take place. And then post that, there will be the new CDS announcement, you think? Or is it now going to, like you said, move into auto mode and someone will take over?
There is no auto mode. No? It's all politics now.
Oh, okay. So now there's going to be all of that. And you're saying that's already started, which is, I guess, the reality of these things. And this is of course, he was a career soldier. Won the award for the Sword of Honor when he was at the IMA, and then went on to become the first CDS. How important is this legacy of his? And there's someone asking, was he ever in active warfare? I don't think so, because he joined the armed forces in 1978. So possibly I think if there was anything, it would have been Kargil, maybe, if there was any involvement. Although he has won awards and medals, but he wasn't part of, the other wars that we had, the 71 and all of that. China. He's from a younger generation of
Yeah,
army personnel. This was actually even a generational change, wasn't it? Uh,
yeah,
Abhijit, this was a new generation of army men who had not fought the Bangladesh war and come into
correct,
service after
correct.
that.
And irrespective, well, I mean, his legacy is, just being the first CTS
Hmm.
uh, in a certain kind of joint. Now, whether it is successful or not, we'll only know about 3, 4 CTSs down the line. Because remember,
Yeah.
the last attempt at integration was the Integrated Defense Staff, the IDS that they started off under Vajpayee. And
Hmm.
that has now become a punishment post. You're put out to pasture out there.
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
So we
Hmm.
really don't know. The thing is, at least here, ceremonially speaking, you're not above the service chiefs. You're kind of, what you refer to in Latin as primus inter pares, first amongst equals.
Yes. Right. Also,
So
there isn't a reporting structure, like the chiefs do not have a dotted
he
line.
he 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 can't order an army, navy, or air force to do something that they don't want to do.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. That's interesting. Well, Rahul wants to know if this is going to be compared to Ziaul Haq in coming
Look, the
days. But very
conspiracy theories have already started. No, so like the case of exploding mangoes.
Hmm.
Uh, I mean, Ziaul Haq was possibly sabotage. It
Yeah,
was covered up. So
yeah.
yeah. So I suspect what's going to happen here is, unless the army is absolutely transparent in the way they deal with this investigation, or rather the Air Force in this case, because it's an Air Force helicopter,
Hmm.
it'll just keep spawning conspiracy theories like death rays from space, or aliens from Mars, or
Hmm.
Chinese lasers, like somebody was asking before, and things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Remember, these things don't happen in India. Okay,
Hmm.
militants here don't have shoulder fired missiles. You
Yeah.
can't just have foreign planes coming over Indian territory. Remember, we during the Pokhran nuclear tests, we managed to detect, we didn't manage to intercept, but we managed to detect American stealth aircraft flying over Pokhran to take images.
Hmm.
Okay, so you would have definitely detected certain things. So again, not this thing. We'll know when the black box and everything
It's picked up.
are
Yeah.
opened. But again, if the military doesn't deal with this properly, it's just another uh,
Hmm.
uh, aliens did it, Martians, little men from Mars did it nonsense.
Hmm. Hmm. In fact, this question's come up. I was also going to ask you a similar question. Abhijit, if you're a Pakistani general, I guess, or the ISI chaps, and you're watching what's happening, what are you making of this situation? And same with China.
If I were a Pakistani general, I'd be absolutely gleeful at the moment, sheer Schadenfreude. Uh, but would I be planning an adventure? No, because they all
Hmm.
understand that India works on an institutional basis. Those
Hmm.
institutions may be flawed. The institutions may have weaknesses which can be exploited, etc., etc., etc. But the going of one man
Hmm.
does not represent such a major blow that it forces a
Derail.
reassessment of Chinese or Pakistani strategy.
However, on the other hand, if this had happened in Pakistan, that would actually be far more complicated for them because the institution is the general in charge.
Exactly. The institution is the general in charge. It's heavily personalized because remember, some generals keep extending their own tenures. Like
Mm,
Musharraf extended his own tenure, Bajwa's tenure also, but he self-extended it. No, I mean technically
mm,
it was Imran Khan extending it, but we all know
mm,
it was self-extended,
mm, mm,
right? So it's very much one of these things where uh, uh, where in Pakistan the consequences are much 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 more
mm,
uh, uh, significant But
Hmm.
at the same time, they're not that significant either. Because
Hmm.
remember, when Ziaul Haq died, what happened? Nothing. Realistically speaking, nothing happened.
Hmm.
When you know, Parvez Musharraf got sacked midair, he staged the coup. His troops staged the coup without him.
Hmm. Hmm.
The midnight coup against Nawaz Sharif and all of that. You remember all the visuals, where they were climbing into
Yeah.
Nawaz Sharif's house and things like that. So even there is though the impact is more in Pakistan, it's still the nature of a modern army protects you against shocks of individuals passing away.
Hmm. Hmm. It's a sad, sad day in this country, really. I mean, it's just been a horrible year with so many things that have gone
Yeah.
wrong. And on top of that, to have this happen, I mean, it's on some level. I was just telling our viewers earlier, that all this politics about, this kind of plane, that kind of chopper, how much does it cost, etc., etc. I mean, we just need these people to be safe. That's it. Whoever's in that job, it may be
Yeah.
someone you support or someone you don't support. But I
Hmm.
don't think that these should be made political issues or be something that uh, point making is made or that kind of vulgar rhetoric, because when a
Mind
loss like
you, the editor of the National Herald also tweeted something really nasty.
I know, I mean, I couldn't believe that. I mean,
Absolute piece of toxic shit.
what I mean, I mean, Abhijit, for me, it's so difficult to even articulate a response to these things because I don't understand what mind thinks like that. It's so, even if it's someone you dislike, and this was a man in uniform who had served the country for 40
But
plus
remember,
years.
he was subjected to a slander campaign by the Congress as well.
Hmm.
Don't forget, when he was made CDS, they basically ghost wrote all those nasty articles about him. Do you have any doubt about who was actually behind the entire slander campaign against him? No, no.
Hmm.
So these people, they're just the absolute pits. This is why they never get votes, and they're completely surprised. It's
Yeah.
like these aliens shot down or the Chinese shot down General Rawat. These people blame electoral voting machine fraud for losing elections, where the reasons for their loss are staring them in the face.
Hmm. Hmm.
Who's going to vote for a toxic piece of shit like that?
I mean, yeah, it's just shocking. The man, it's barely been it's not, it was not even officially confirmed at that point. And
Hmm.
you come out and you say something like this, you have to wonder, forget their politics, but their upbringing, their their humanity. I mean, all of those things come into question.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. And of course, there was the China question. If you're in China and this has happened,
Again, no change. No
hmm.
change in posture or position or thinking. Acha, I have to go now.
Yeah, I agree. Me too. I just want to
Okay.
thank you for joining me on such short notice and thank our viewers for listening in. And yeah, it's a sad day for the country, and
And
we'll come
please
back on
keep, just a request to the audience, please keep the pilot who survived, Captain Varun Singh, in your group commander Varun Singh, in your thoughts
this.
and prayers, please. It doesn't look good for him, but please, please, please pray for him, because I'm an atheist, but still, if you believe, please pray for him. I'm sure these things make a difference.
Is he a young officer? I mean, how do we know anything about him?
Well, not much, but just pray for him.
All right. I'm sure he will get better. I hope he will get
Okay.
better because this can't end this way. But thank you
Yeah.
so much, AM, and thank you
Thank you.
everybody for viewing. Bye
Om
bye.
Shanti.
Om Shanti to the departed soul, to his wife, to the 11 others who passed away in this tragic accident, to their families who are bearing this loss and during what is already a very difficult time with Corona, with COVID, and of course to General Rawat's two daughters who find themselves without parents in a matter of hours. And that heart really goes out to them. to lose both their parents in this way. Once again, we'll be back at another time, and stay safe. Love the ones who love you and love the others too. I think we can all do with a little more kindness. Thank you.